morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
I'm the Reverend William Levwood, the minister here at Acatink Unitarian Universalist Church. My pronouns are he and him. As we begin our service this morning, I invite you or encourage you to silence your phones if you're here in person, close your other windows or apps if you're at home, and then to take a breath and center yourself as we begin our worship this morning. We begin by calling forth and honoring the people who made each of us, our biological and spiritual ancestors, teachers, and guides. We call forth those who imagined and made this congregation possible and who have sustained it up to this present day. We open in welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomac Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together may one day know full justice. As we light our chalice this morning, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, I invite you actually to say our chalice lighting words with us and do the motions: open heart, open mind, loving heart, helping hands. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the loving heart. This is the church of the helping hands.
We welcome you to Acatink Unitarian Universalist Church Livestream worship service. My name is Brenna Clanton. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. Acatink UU Church is a welcoming and inclusive community that seeks to create a more just and compassionate world. All are welcome here in this justice-seeking, earth-healing community of faith. You are welcome no matter whom you love, no matter your identity or heritage, no matter your beliefs or background, no matter your means or abilities. You are welcome here in this religious community. If you are new to Acatink and would like to talk more about this church, please be sure to reach out to me, our minister, Reverend William Levwood, or one of today's greeters using the chat box. Our website, www.acatinkuu.org, you can check the online order of service on the worship section. While you are on the website, please be sure to check our events page for upcoming virtual gatherings and other news. Whether you are a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our virtual coffee hour immediately after this service. We are so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome.
This month's Soul Matters theme is awakening. I'm going to talk about the Passover story, but often when we focus on the Passover story, we focus on the awe-inspiring parts. Those 10 awful plagues, the drama of the Egyptians chasing after the Israelites, of the waters parting to bring freedom. But there are events in the story that come before the plagues and the chase and the parting of the waters. And without these quieter moments, the powers of liberation are never set into motion. I want us to remember that the Israelites were in bondage for 400 years and to ask, how come the God of liberation didn't intervene through all those years? Was God asleep? Perhaps, because it isn't until the Israelites cry out Cry out to God, that God hears those cries, remembers the covenant that has been made, and begins to set in motion the liberation. I like to imagine the Israelites, just to vision them, see them shouting to God, "Wake up!" To vision them in my mind's eye shouting to each other, "Wake up!" It's important for us to remember that until we acknowledge our suffering and the suffering of our neighbors, we can't wake up. We won't wake up. That's the first step to liberation, is to acknowledge the suffering of oppression in our midst. In fact, keeping us asleep is one of Pharaoh's, one of the tyrants through all the ages, most important tricks. That's why the Russian machine is churning out false stories about the war in Ukraine. It's why the big lie here in our own nation and all the little lies that support it are essential to the subversion of our democracy. It's why critical race theory has been distorted to be something it isn't. Why teaching the truth of our history is being suppressed in our schools. Why books are being banned, overwhelmingly books by people of color and LGBTQ plus authors. It's why, like the Israelites, we need to be shouting to God, "Wake up!" Like the Israelites, we need to be shouting to each other, "Wake up, people!" Or maybe it isn't shouting at all. Perhaps it could be a crying out that happens in a whisper. Maybe it's a series of conversations we have with each other, teaching and learning from each other, waking up by listening. Maybe, as the song says, love knocks and waits for us to hear. Right after the Israelites cry out to God, Moses stands before the burning bush. I wonder if you ever thought about that moment of Moses discovering the burning bush. If you ever thought about how long you have to look at a fiery bush to notice that it's burning but not being consumed. Ever thought about that? This wisdom comes from Rabbi Jamie Korngold, who points it out in her book, God in the Wilderness, that Moses must have looked at that bush, not just glanced at it, but really looked at it for a good long while in order to notice that it was burning but not burning up. This is another way of waking up, by bearing witness to the world around us, really paying attention, looking and listening deeply. Perhaps if we did this, if we do this, if we make a practice out of this, we'll have the experience Harriet Tubman had in our Story for All Ages. Just as she heard God, the voice of liberation, speaking to her in the whippoorwill's song and in the screech of the owl and in the breeze, just as she saw the face of God, the agent of liberation, in the moon's reflection on the creek and in the faces of strangers she met along the way, heard the voice of liberation in the mosquito buzzing in her ear and in the babbling brook, reminding her of the teachings of her ancestors, teachings that taught her how to seek freedom, how to avoid capture, how to survive. And then later she feels freedom in the sun shining gold in the trees. Can you feel it? Freedom in the sun shining gold in the trees. She sees the faces of her family in the wood grain as she dusts. And those faces call to her to bring others to freedom. I want to invite us to open our eyes to see how the world speaks to us, to open our eyes to the wisdom all around us. I'm reminded of a line from a song that says that the dreams that bring wisdom, perhaps it's not about the dreams, perhaps it's not about what exactly is going on us around the world, but our quality of listening and making meaning from what we see and hear, of bringing our attention to it, to a loving presence that holds us, lulling us to sleep like the lullaby of wagon wheels, calming our fears like the warm fire in a hearth, reviving our souls like a cool drink of water. I think it's important to point out, especially in the Unitarian Universalist Church, that this is a different kind of God, different than the kind of God that many people worship. It's not an old bearded man up in the sky, not an angry tyrant. That's Pharaoh's God. That's the God of all the pharaohs through all the ages, all the tyrants, large and small, be they the petty lords of an entire nation or of a household. All those who think that power and control are synonyms. That kind of power is a bitter fruit and a barrenness. The only power this desire to control possesses is the power to destroy, to close the ears, to hold the eyes shut, to grasp and grip, to squeeze until the breath stops. The power to control is a dead thing and a death-dealing thing. And that's all the power of control can do. That's why Ben Okri tells Katya in his poem that those who destroy your land destroy themselves. An empire, he writes, is a vast ego, a gigantic delusion that makes people think they own the souls of others, control the destiny of nations, are the masters of the earth. Even as they see the lie in this delusion, even as the destructive monster's mouth gapes ever wider, baring its metallic teeth, still the tyrant clings. Because this is the tyrant's only trick, the clenched fist, the devouring destruction, never the open hand, never the open heart, the open eye, the open ear. But there is another power, and it knocks and waits for us to hear, burns with life all around us. It is life, the power of life, the spirit of love, alive and growing and speaking and showing itself to us as a guide, as a partner, as a friend. This God, the spirit of life, the power of love, calls to us, offers its gifts to us freely, asks only for our participation, asks only for us to be partners with love, friends for life. Love offers life in spite of foes who threaten and condemn. Love comes to heal the broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin. This God is the love that speaks from the burning bush and from the flaming chalice, that says, Ehe asher ehye, I will be what I will be. I am alive, changing, growing, the very spirit of life, knocking and waiting for us to hear, to listen, to respond. This is the Spirit, the power of love, the Spirit that counters oppression and tyranny. I'm not suggesting it's a supernatural force. In our story for all ages, all of Harriet's examples of God, of the Spirit of love, speaking to her, awakening her, occur within nature and within humanity. And Ben Okri in his poem speaks of finding our true selves through the crucible of resistance to oppression. Speaks of dreams of freedom that, like that eternal fire, cannot be quenched. Not by tyranny, not by destruction, not even by death. Dreams that burn without burning up. He tells us that the bombs awaken tigers, that one day laughter will defeat vacuum missiles. He writes to young Katya saying, "You who live in the slipstream of empires, wake up fast." And it's true that sometimes it takes tragedies to wake us up. And it's also true that we can train ourselves in the practice of waking up. Train ourselves like Harriet to listen to the power of love speaking all around us and within us, between us, through us. The title of this sermon is Wake Up, People. And I think that can be heard in two ways. First of all, as an exhortation, like the Israelites crying out to God, crying out to each other, "Wake up, people. Wake up. Get woke." And we do need to say that to each other in shouts and in whispers, in everyday conversations. Wake up, people. Wake up, get woke. But there's another way to hear the phrase. We can hear it as the wake up people, the get woke and stay woke people, the people who wake up, who are committed to waking up. And we can live into that. That's the choice the Israelites made. A choice to become a new kind of community, committed to equity, justice, and compassion, committed to making collective liberation an ongoing experience, not a one-time parting of the waters, but a daily opening of the eyes, a daily awakening to wonder. The wonder, the awesomeness of a world infused with the spirit of life, guided by the power of love. That's the choice the children of Israel made, the commitment, the covenant, the practice of collective liberation, of being a wake-up people. And we know it's a practice because they struggled. They made mistakes. They failed again and again. They hoarded food, worshiped the golden calf. But they stayed committed to the covenant, to the practice of waking up again and again. May we too, as Unitarian Universalists, who count the people of Israel as our spiritual ancestors, may we make this commitment to getting woke and staying woke. I know people have made that a bad thing to be, but it's not. May we commit to getting woke and staying woke, to being always a wake-up people, an awakened people, committed to ongoing revelation, to the possibility of waking up in any moment, of saying from the burning bush, from the flaming chalice, we will be what we will be. We will keep listening for love's guidance. We will be willing to go where we must go, to do what we must do, whatever we must do, to make love real in the world. To wake up each morning with our mind stayed on freedom. So may it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
Though we will extinguish our chalice flame, we carry within us what we kindled. The light of inspiration, warmth of compassion, the fire of commitment. May we bring these gifts into our lives and share them radiantly out in the world. I invite you now to join me in our community blessing with these words of David Bumbau. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. Pause now, silent witness to that unity.
May we go out into the world alive, awakened to the life and the power of love all around us. May it inspire us each day just to get through the day and also to help and support each other and bring about the world we all dream of. May it be so. May we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.